My name is David Walker and I'm the Bishop of Broken Bay, and I'm here to introduce these talks on the Compendium of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. These talks are not going to summarise what is in the Compendium, but they're supposed to give you some framework within which you will be able to approach the reading of the Compendium. And the purpose of this program is for you to read the text, and the talks will just help you to do that. Before we look at the actual Compendium, we need to look at the larger context within which it came into existence. In 1994, the Holy Father introduced the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and it was an effort to include in one volume all of the teachings of the Church. It was a volume directed to the bishops, and it was meant to provide something that they could use in making local catechisms. But like many things that came out with just one end, it has been found to serve a lot of different purposes. And I think it's an important volume for anybody that wants to learn about their faith, or if they're involved in teaching others, to take this as a reference book. Now, this particular book, as with the Compendium, follows a particular style in the way churches do, or our church does, catechisms. It begins with the Apostles' Creed and outlines the beliefs that we have. It then treats of the commandments, the things that we do, our morality. It then speaks about the sacraments, the liturgical life of the church, and finally, it talks about prayer. And what we have in the Catechism is the same outline that we will have in the Compendium as well. I'd like to say that I could recommend all of you to have a copy of the Catechism on your shelf. It's an important book, and I think you will find that there is a lot of richness there that you can refer to constantly. However, we're focusing here on the Compendium. And the Pope tells us that the Compendium is a synthesis of what we have in the Catechism. In other words, it draws out the essential elements that are there. However, it has its own style of presentation. It's not just a copy. It has its own way of doing things. And the first point to note is that it's dependent on the Catechism. That when you read it, you will find references to the Catechism in the margin, so that if something is particularly meaningful to you, you can immediately go to the Catechism and just read a few extra paragraphs that might deepen the meaning you see in the brief account that is here in the Compendium. The second characteristic of the Compendium is that it's a question and answer style, quite different from what we find in the Catechism. And it's an old catechetical way of doing things that focuses our faith. It puts the question and then gives the answer. And I think you will find that as a very helpful way to deepen your understanding of the truths and the information that we have here in the Compendium. The third characteristic of the Compendium is that it makes use of icons or religious presentations, and it offers a reflection on these icons spread throughout the book. So it offers us a different way, not just an informational way of understanding, but a way of understanding in terms of beauty that can bring out other aspects of the truths that perhaps we may not have been able to recognise simply by using words. So this is a book that has its own methodology. It's a unit in itself, but always to be seen in terms of the Catechism, of which it is a synthesis. How to read the book. I want to suggest to you that this is not just a reading for information. It's a reading to deepen your experience of God. Somebody once told me a story about oil in the car. And it said if you put oil in the car, it just rests in the sump. It doesn't do anything, it just rests there. It's only when the engine is going that the oil does the work for which it was intended. So information that comes out of a book is really like the oil. It lies in the sump unless something happens and it is soon forgotten. But if the engine is going, if we are living the Christian life, then what we read is being integrated into our way of life, and that will help us to grow in our faith. So what we're talking about here is not just a reading, we're talking about entering into a new experience of faith that is being enriched by this summary of our faith that has been given to us by the Holy Father. I would like to suggest that you don't read it from cover to cover. That's not the way to sit down and do it. Just take little bits of it. And I think if you do that, it will be much more meaningful. If I had to put it into a category of literature as it were, I'd say it's like a bedside book or a companion book that you carry with you. Just pick it up, read a bit of it and reflect on it. So it's that reflective reading, that prayerful reading, that really is the best way to approach the compendium. And it's that way that enables it to be a deepening experience of your faith journey and not simply an accumulation of information. So see it as that companion and that bedside book. And I think why it is that will emerge from the various talks that we are giving. How to use the book in relationship to others, I think, is important. I would like to suggest that sometimes it's good to engage with others in the reading of a book like this. And I could suggest that you could together watch the video that we're making now, and then in your own time, over a period of time, read the section, just taking a little bit of a time, trying to understand and sharing your understanding, but also sharing the experience that you have in the light of the information that you have received. So this becomes not a discussion group, but a faith sharing group that is deepened by the use of the compendium that has been given to us by the Holy Father. In urging you to take up the compendium, what I'm urging you to do is to enter into a new phase of your journey to God. That here is something that can help you to grow. It can help you to deepen your experience of God, and it's in that way that you come to know exactly what the mysteries of our faith are. They're not simply things to be learned about, they're things to be experienced. And therefore what I wish you as you take on this endeavour is not good reading, but a good experience of the mysteries of our Catholic faith.